All right, let's go ahead and start.
Okay.
What is the small thing that annoys you in a friendship? What is it? I heard some of you over here, someone said flakiness. We talked about that. We talked about that last week. I think it's very much something that can be, if someone's not honest, someone's not real, kind of like wishy-washy. The worst one, I think the worst one in flakiness is this, is when you're the friend, but really you're there just for their, like, it's not a two-way street. And so there's two problems with a two-way street. I would say it's a one-way friendship, is that you find, okay, that person's not good, the person who just uses you and just selfishly uses you. But some of you are dadgum magnets of finding people who are just need that. Stop being friends with people who aren't really friends. All they are people who just use you over and over and over. We sometimes do that. Some of us, oh my goodness, we find a victim and we cannot wait to do whatever it takes for that victim. Stop. A friendship is a two-way street, not a one-way street. It requires sacrifice. It's not a 80-20. It's a 50-50 for both people. Both people have to give 100% to meet halfway there. If it's always one-sided, it's not really a good friendship. Girls, you're really bad at that. Guys, y'all stopped caring right off the bat, so y'all have a problem there. But girls, y'all will attach yourself to people who will absolutely suck the life out of you. Be careful, okay? What else? What else is a thing that easily annoys us in friendships?
How you say it? When you call them and they don't call you back.
Yeah.
How you say that?
Ghosting. When they ghost, yes. We're so cool. We're so cool. Man, this is last week. We're still so cool.
I would say it.
Yeah, I said it last week, and they thought I was cool. You said it, and Miss Alex sounds cooler. Everyone thinks I'm cool, okay? Yeah, she's exactly right. When you call and they don't call you back, when you text, they don't call you back, or they don't text you back. But when they need something, they expect you to call back immediately, right? That's that one-sided relationship all back over again. I think it's a one-way street. It's not a two-way street in any kind of relationship like that. Again, I say this: protect yourself from being around people who always are those kind of friends. Those are not really friends at all. So, absolutely. What else? Anything else annoy you? Yes, ma'am.
When you and your friends don't agree on things, and they expect you to think like they think.
Yes.
Yeah.
That really annoys me.
Yeah, I feel like that keeps coming up not just on Wednesday nights, it keeps coming up on Sunday mornings. Lynn says that he found a place in a book that actually said the same thing today. You're exactly right. It is that if we have a disagreement, and it comes down to a question that one of y'all just asked, I think it was what you just said. Is conflict okay? Should it be expected? Well, then why do so many of us hate it? They don't. We act like 2-year-olds. When we have conflict, we immediately do this. Hello, that's why there's so much church hurt. That's why there's so much church people who get mad at each other and start getting upset. I'm taking my toys and going home. Fine, take your toys and go home. You've heard me say this, and people go, it is so unpastorally when Clint says that if you want to come here and you don't want to get along, or if you don't want to understand the elders, understand our rules, understand these things, and you want to get mad because you don't want to obey or listen or do what we're supposed to do and submit, here's what it is. Then you're going to go, well, I'm going to go there and I'm just going to cause a fight. Listen to me. No, you just need to go to another church. And people are going, oh, that just sounds like so unpastorally. No, I protect the flock. I'm not here for that guy. You know what I mean? If that person wants to come here and cause a mess, we have to just say, please move on to the next place. And that's how church should be, because that's how we should. But here's the thing. It's in a world where everybody is the victim, everyone feels like they deserve to be heard. They do, until they start talking nonsense. And then they need to understand that there's leadership that has to say, no, you can't go any past this. You want to say this? You want to do this? No, you can't do this. And there's been times where we've had to say, please just, and listen, there's been times where I've had to correct people, And I don't do it in a mean way. I do it in a very kind way. But you have to be that loving in that way. I think you have to be in that way. Yeah. Anything else on those? Yes, sir?
When talking with somebody and then you're still in conversation with them, and all of a sudden they interrupt.
Yeah.
And start talking about something else.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know I even struggle with that. I think most of us struggle with that. We struggle with, we're more excited about listening to what we're about to say than we are listening to what the person is. We really struggle with listening more than we struggle with talking. I think that's a problem with, I think for most of us, especially if we're talking about a topic that we feel like we're real passionate about. I think that's very true. So.
People listen to respond instead of listening to understand.
It's exactly. They're trying to build a case, and you're going, stop it. Just listen.
People with ADHD, they got an idea, and if they don't say it right away, they will forget.
Yeah, they'll forget.
That's why they interrupt people. It's not like in a bad way. It's just like, oh, let me tell you this before I forget. It's not that you're trying to be mean. It's just brain is not working.
I think when I was in speech classes, and we had to like have more of a, if you wanted to make your whatever you're about to say more dynamic, you never talk louder, you never talk faster, you stop. Draw them all in, and then talk. So, you know what the best thing that needs to happen to most conversations? A little bit of a pause, a little bit of a breath, and then answer. You don't have to answer right away. You don't have to have some kind of, have a little pause in there, and then answer the question. And I think that's okay. Okay, look at the second one. Do you feel comfortable in conflict, or do you avoid conflict? So I think we can do a raise of hands here. Now again, be careful. You're sitting beside your spouse, okay? Who would say that they avoid conflict? Who avoids conflict? Okay? Who actually goes and sometimes doesn't mind going and getting in conflict? Yes. You cannot hold Georgiana's arm up.
Yeah.
Who does it depend on?
It is. The circumstances matter. I think it really does.
Who the person is and also what you're discussing.
Yeah, and I think it really depends on if this person's really your friend. I think this person really depends on, can I trust and do I have good communications with this person? Because again, a friend is someone who you do have good trust and good communications with. So you kind of have to have both those things. But I think you're right. I think when it comes down to it, it depends on the person. An acquaintance, someone you don't know very well, probably not. But but here's the thing. The way you engage conflict shows you how mature you are.
Do you believe in conflict if it's biblical correction?
We'll get to that. That's going to be the whole lesson today. Yeah, so when it comes down to that conflict, I am a person who does not mind conflict. I never mind it. Some people don't, and that's okay. But there is. If someone has to be told something bad, I don't mind being that guy. I've been that guy since I've had 3 jobs.
If I'm wrong, it's okay to tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I should be adult enough to be able to accept that I was wrong.
And think about it. Yeah.
She's the one that's always wrong. And if I'm going to know that, I'll tell her.
Yeah, we're recording this.
Listen to me. Listen. No one listens to him. No one listens to him. He's just that talking head. No. What is funny is that I think it's the way you address it. Like, is it out of love? Am I going to this person because now, I will say this, like, you have to really check your heart, and we'll talk about this. This is going to be the steps of the resolution, but you have to check your heart before you even think about going and getting to that conflict. Is it just to show that you're right? If that's true, that's not really resolution. That's just to get your way and amongst husbands and wives, amongst friends. So what I want you to think about, and this is what I kind of want you to disassociate yourself a little bit today, and then maybe I should have made guys sit on one side and girls sit on the other, but when is the last time you had a disagreement with a friend? Especially like one of the same, like a guy and a guy or a girl and a girl. Like, when's the last time you had a disagreement with a friend? And think about it, why is it so hard? The last one, My respect grows for my friend if, when conflict arises, they do what? Understand. They want to understand.
Your take, not just them, but you too. You're understanding their point as they're understanding.
So you really want to understand both sides. They listen. Agree to disagree might require that. Might require, I'm going to think this way, you're going to think this way, and that's okay. Yeah. What else? Yeah, we need to walk in with our shortcomings and say, hey, I messed up here. Or I said this and I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Go ahead and say this. Always look at the speck in your eye before you start judging the log in somebody else's. Absolutely. Sorry, log in yours before you say the speck in somebody else's. Reverse that. Yeah. What else? Anything else?
What was the question? I wasn't listening.
The last one.
If I know that they care,
Okay.
Do what?
I said, if I know that they care, I'm more apt to listen.
Yes.
If you know, yeah, if I know that they care. The problem is I'm telling you, I think the number one problem that we have now, especially with social media and like everything else, everything is like this debate to be right instead of a debate to have peace. Like, being right doesn't mean anything. If you win the argument and you lose the friendship, did you win?
No.
You lost. You now just lost a friend. I have a friend who is a friend of mine since college. Me and him think totally different politically. He has reasons why he thinks politically whatever he wants to believe, and I can believe whatever I want to believe politically. So when he sits there and he wants to have these giant arguments with me, and he doesn't, and his point of view is that he looks at us as we don't really know anything because we're from small towns, and he's from the city, so he's smarter than us, and he's from a minority group. So there's a lot of things that he'll say. And I'm sitting here saying this to you, but I'm telling you right now, there's not one part of me that sits there and gets mad about it. Because you know what? I love that guy. Man, I mean, I love him. He doesn't, if I said one thing about politics, he would go, ugh. If he says one thing about politics, I would probably do the same thing. But you know what? If he asked me tomorrow to come and help him do something, I'd be there. His dad died, I was at his funeral. His sister died, I was at her funeral. He said questions about his life, his relationship, suicide, was there right there beside him. You know why? Because that's more important than blue and red. But yet, for some of us, it's not. That's what I mean. Like, do you love the person? If I don't love the person, I can't get over those silly things. But if I love the person, I can. And so that's what I mean by that. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Go. Here we go. Sorry, if you don't know who that is, it's just a crazy person. Go ahead.
So, very friendly and,
I know, yeah.
honest, so, conflict. Here's what I look for is us, not against each other, but against the problem.
Yeah.
So, like your friend, you love them more than you love what's the problem between you, or the conflict causer in that scenario. Like, I love you more than what I think about politics, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So when I know that we can work through it in a calm manner and hear each other out, and we understand nobody has to win this, it's just understanding the other person where they're coming from. Move on.
Yeah. The problem is that some of us, it ends the relationship right then and there. The moment, think about it, if you're a mature friend, you're a friend that when disagreements come, you stay in the friendship. When a disagreement comes and people don't think like you, and you immediately get out of that relationship, or you stop that, or you don't talk to them anymore, or you don't ask them for lunch, or you don't ask them for coffee, that is an immature, first off, I'd say you're an immature believer. Because what we said, the vertical relationship that we have with Christ shows in the fruit that we have with our horizontal relationships with other people. So now, because of this one thing that's an earthly thing, not a heavenly thing, now has gotten in the way with this relationship horizontally, this fruit has gotten squashed. And I would say that what's happened is the thing that allowed your horizontal relationship with a friend to get into trouble is that you allowed an idol to be built in your life that now is more important than your friendship, and now that is more important than actually the friendship that shows the fruit that you have vertically with God. God should convict your soul. He does, by the way. He's not should. Wrong word. God convicts your soul and brings you to say, stop holding that so important. It's not. The reason why some of us think a certain way about anything because we hate the other side so much. You know how it's easy to point at someone who is, let's say someone who loves transgenderism and they're so pro this. Well, then I won't even do a certain thing because like today I heard somebody say, golf is fascism. Anybody who plays golf is fascist. The reason why you're fascist is because you hate the environment so much that you would go and celebrate them wasting so much land and so much beauty, and that is completely fascist because you would spend, and it's like, and Trump does it. That's why it's fascist. That's insanity, okay? But I want you to hear me say this. It's insanity, but we do the same thing. We just do it the other way around. You want to say, I don't believe in transgenderism, but if anyone thinks any way left, then they're crazy. And what it does is it just creates these polar opposite people, and there's no middle ground. Ever. Yes, ma'am.
Red and bluing, but what about when it comes down to good and the actual
Yeah, that's a totally different topic, but it's a great question. Evil is subjective when you are in the world. There are evil in a blue person's eyes, everything red. So evil is a subjective term. Now, if you're saying biblical evil, you would say that there's more evil through the eyes of a blue than there would be eyes through a red. But there's still corruption. For anyone to say that there's no corruption on any side is blind. So, because I don't trust anybody, to be honest with you. I got told you on Sunday, I don't trust myself. So it's hard. It's hard. So look there, look at the thing. It gives you a little synopsis of what it says. It says, because God has made us in Christ, we can face conflict, differences, and hurt in friendships with humility, honesty, hope, and instead of walking away. If we truly love someone, we don't avoid conflict. We walk through it with trust and communications. I think trust and communication, if you've heard me ever say this before, if you have a good relationship with God, you have trust in God, you have communication with God. If you have a good relationship with your wife or your spouse, you have good trust with your wife, you have good communication. Everything in relationship this whole entire life is built on trust and communication. If your wife and your husband you're not doing very well, either you're struggling with those two right there. So I want you to think about it. Why is friendship hard? Even godly friendships face real challenges, disagreements or different opinions, different backgrounds, personalities, envy, pride, and comparisons. It's a big one, especially when we start like holding our lives up to their lives and why do they get to have nice things and why do we not get to have nice things? There's a lot of things where it comes down to that. I think envy, pride, and selfishness is really going to be the heart of it. That's what we see in 1 Corinthians 13, what we said last week. If you have your Bibles, we are going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 18. 1 Samuel chapter 18. I'll keep reading while you're turning there. The Bible assumes conflict, even among faithful believers. We see it with Paul, Barnabas, and John Mark. Paul has an issue with Barnabas. He also has an issue with John Mark. We see that in Acts, I think it's 15, if I remember right. Yeah, Acts 15. And they start to argue, and what happens is they split ways. John Mark goes with Barnabas, and John Mark is the one who wrote the book of Mark. They split, and then they go off into their own missionary journeys, but they have a conflict, and they just split. He says basically that John Mark is not dependable, and Barnabas is like, no, give him another chance. And Paul's like, I got work to do, I got to go, and they kind of split ways because of those two things.
But there were two great missionaries.
Great men, and so maybe that's what God wanted. Maybe that's what needed to happen, is the conflict actually made it where the reach actually even happened more. Again, if everything happens because of God's will, maybe that was God's will. So it's not like a bad thing. So the conflict's maybe not bad, okay? Euodia and Syntyche, people ask me to say that all the time. now help as they agree. They show the argument through Philippians, where they actually have this argument in Philippians. We kind of explained that through our last Philippians series. But the thing is that the present of conflict does not go away. It always is there. And we are going to talk about tonight the arguments or the friendship between three men. Three men were David, Jonathan, and Saul. I say Saul because what's the opposite of a friend? Probably an enemy. And Saul was David's friend at the beginning, more like a father figure, and became a man who was absolutely wanting to kill him for all that he has. Jonathan is the greatest example of friendship in all the Bible. Hands down, there's nobody better than the friendships as Jonathan. If you don't know, because I have to assume some of you don't, David was going to be king. David was the David and Goliath, okay? He just goes and slays Goliath. He grows up. He becomes a great warrior. He kills all these different tribes and just, I'm not going to tell you what he brings back, but he does all these things for Saul. He makes Saul a great nation. Saul's the king. His son, Saul's son, is Jonathan. Jonathan's son befriended David. David and Jonathan are best of buds. They are friends, like friends. But you could see the conflict. What happens is Saul starts getting more jealous of David. David becomes so high ranked that he also, what we find out, but what Saul finds out later is that he was anointed to be king, that Samuel actually anointed him to be the second king, that he was not happy with what Saul had been doing. And so I think I've summed it up for those who don't know the Bible, because I don't ever assume that everybody knows these stories. But I want you to hear me say this. Saul first loved David, and then as he saw his power grow, he learned to hate David. Jonathan never fainted in how much he cared for his friend. He loved his friend. He loved David. He loved everything about David, okay? So look there at 1 Samuel chapter 18. Chapter 18, verse 1 says this: As soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day and would not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David, because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of a robe and that was on him and gave it to David, and his armor, and even his sword and his bow and his belt. And David went out and was successful wherever Saul sent him, so that Saul sent him over the men of war, and this was good in the sight of all the people and also in the sight of Saul's servants. So what Jonathan said was, hey, you take basically my namesake. I trust you. You're my friend. I will do whatever it takes for you. Flip there to the next page. Go to 19. Look at verse 1. We'll read the first part of that one too. And Saul spoke to Jonathan. So this is the dad speaking to the son, to his son, to all of his servants, that they should kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David, and Jonathan told David, Saul's my father seeks to kill you. Therefore, be on your guard in the morning and stay in a secret place and hide yourself. And I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and I will speak to my father about you. And if I learn anything, I will tell you. And Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul, his father, and said to him, let not the king sin against his servant David, because he has not sinned against you, and because his deeds have brought good to you. So there's this conflict between his brother and a dad and a son, and then the friend, and the dad is saying, we got to kill this guy David, because we got to kill him because he's a threat to our throne. He's a threat to even Jonathan's legacy, because Jonathan would be the next in line. But Jonathan, seeing such a good friend, he's like, Dad, you wouldn't have this kingdom if it wasn't for Jonathan. You wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for Jonathan. If it wasn't for David. So you must love David. You have to understand this is who David is. So you can see he goes to bat for him over and over. In chapter 20, verse 23, I think it's beautiful. It says, It says, as for the matter which you and I have spoken, behold, the Lord is between you and me forever. So what he's saying is, Jonathan is saying, hey, you and me, we're buds, we're friends. And look what the notes say. It says, David and Jonathan showed us loyal friendship in the middle of a potential conflict, potential for rivalry. David was a shepherd, an outsider, a rising hero. Jonathan was the prince, the rightful heir to the throne. So he deserved it all. I mean, this sounds like a movie. There's probably more books written about this relationship in the Old Testament than any relationship in all of the Old Testament. Because, I'll be honest, this is so countercultural. Jonathan, in stories that were written today, would kill David. There's no way this would be. This is only through the Word of God that this could even happen.
But that's a template of how our friendship
Should be. This is what it means to be able to keep your eyes on the right thing, to understand what friendship really should be. This is why it's so important. This is what Christ, so everything in the Old Testament, again, we're never going to be the people in the Old Testament, like you'll never be David. But what we see in the Old Testament is glimpses of what Christ meant for friendship to be, meant for everything to be. So when you start to see this, because that's the end of this whole lesson today, look at what Jonathan's response. He says he makes a covenant with David. He says he loves him as his own soul. He protects David from Saul, even at a personal cost. He chooses loyal love over jealousy and faithfulness over self-promotion. Love can overcome the things that usually destroy friendship: competition, insecurity, fear of losing our place. And if I really love you, if I really am your friend, I can celebrate God's work in your life, even when it outshines me. And here's why I say this. I think so many people are going to go, hey, man, you have a bad day, I'll be there. But when everything is going good in someone's life and there's a celebration, we struggle with celebration more than we struggle with actually the bad days. Someone goes to the hospital, yeah, we'll be there, we might help you. But when people are celebrating, we immediately start to become envious in this culture. And the culture that we live in now, someone goes on a trip, we sit there and go, I wish I could afford that. Why? Why can't we be happy for the friends that go on the trip? Pride. We are so filled with so much envy and pride and just a mess. When you think about it, we only look at ourselves. And I think what David shows here, I mean, if anyone could have been upset or prideful or envious, it would have been David. That's why I say this is only from the Word of God that could even have this story, because I think in a modern culture, we would look at this and go, man, David's weak. I've even heard men even say that Jonathan sounds like he's a homosexual. You want to know why he sounds like a homosexual? Because we don't think men should ever sound weak and that they would ever care for another man like that. Because when a man really loves another man and they're really friends, well, there's something weird. Why? Because that's our twisted brains. Same thing with girls. But girls, for some reason, girls can do things that guys can't do in that scenario. But if a girl even talks to a guy, oh, therefore that's an affair. It's the silliest thing on the planet. But that's our culture being so perverted.
I think military men get it a lot better than any civilian does because
Yeah, they have to.
brotherhood that military men get.
I think that whole laying down your life for your friend in military, you see that. I think it's also why they struggle with PTSD so bad, because if they see their friend actually pass away or die, I mean, that's a part of their soul, just like David said. Yeah, that's good. Look at number 3. Heart sin that sabotage friendship. It says, okay, so remember what it said last week. We went through 1 Corinthians 13. It says love, and we said that what love is. Love is what were the 3? Do y'all remember? Love is patient. That's one. Kind, and let's just say selflessness, okay? Because there's a lot of other things that go on there. So if you love someone, the only way you show love is by being kind, patient, and selfless. That's how you show love. So if you show love to your friends, kids, wives, anything, you are kind, patient, and selfless. Some of us struggle with kind, some of us struggle with patient, almost all of us do, and we all struggle with selflessness. So every one of us struggle with being loving to one another. But then it says that these are the things that we are not. So it says love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. Okay. Now Now, I don't know about you, but have you ever been envious? Have you ever been boastful? Have you ever been arrogant or rude? Have you ever been self-seeking? And have you ever been easily angered? If you say no, you a lie. You a lie. Look there, envy. Envy says, why them, not me? Resenting a friend's successes, relationships, or recognition. It turns friends into rivals. You stop being more like Jonathan and you start being like Saul. You are not the one who's saying, I want the best for you. You're the one saying, I want the best for you as long as you're not better than me. I said last week, especially for men do not want to see other men do well other than their own kids. That is an unhealthy way of being. It's not a good way of being. I always say there's two types of people. There's people who have boats. There's people who don't have boats. There's people who have swimming pools. People who don't have swimming pools. I don't want to be either one of those people. I don't want a boat or a swimming pool. You know why? I don't want to take care of them. But I love having friends that do. Okay? But so when it comes down to those two things, I want you to think about this. When they have those things, do they have those things and going, well, they have a pool. They have a boat. Who cares? Why can't we celebrate with them? Why do we have to sit there and say, oh, why can't we just be happy for them? But I'm telling you, our envy and our pride, look what it says, pride. Pride says, I'm right, I know best, I shouldn't have to bend. Pride is the root of all things bad in the Bible. Pride, always do with pride. If you just look up pride in the book of Proverbs, it will give you about 40 verses that tell you why pride is the rotting of your soul. Make apology. Makes apology and listening like it's like a weakness. Needs to win, not to love. Needs to win every argument. Needs to be right. Needs to be this. They have this need to always having to one up the next person. I'll tell you one thing that wears me out about friendship, that first question, the one-up story. I hate the one-up story person. I cannot stand it. Just tell me the story, okay? And then I'll tell you another story. And then you're going, oh, you think that's good? Let me tell you a better one. And you're going, stop it. Wears me out. I'm telling you, I'm just sitting there going, I'm done. I don't want to talk anymore. You make me shut off. It's what it is. I can't stand the one-upper. One-upper wears me out. Next one, anger and resentment. Explodes out of outbursts and implores silent treatment or even withdrawals. Holds on to hurt instead of seeking healing. If my wife was here, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you, and this is why I am. I'm always honest with you because I want you to be honest with yourself, and I want you to be honest with yourself about your relationship with maybe your spouse, your kids, or your family, or obviously even your relationship with God. If there's anything that I would say that I struggle with would be outbursts of anger. I struggle with not saying what I'm thinking at all times. And I don't know if you know this or not, guys, that's bad code. Girls don't like that. Do not say what you're always thinking. Girls, it just takes a while for y'all to verbalize it. But so here's another thing that I do that's not good. If I don't like you, I don't talk to you very much because I try to avoid you. That's not good either. Now, what's good about here is I talk to almost everybody here, so everybody should be good here. Okay, but I want you to think about this. You do it too. You have a little anger. You have a little resentment. You have little, I'm going to give him the silent treatment, or I'm going to give him an outburst, or that person got on my nerves at the last luncheon. Oh my God. And it's always the luncheons. It's always the luncheons. Dude, I'm telling you right now, them chicken fingers, they go fast, and when we don't get a chicken finger, people get really mad. Y'all act like y'all don't you lie. Is that what it is? Yeah. Well, but you think about it. Our anger creates resentment, and all it does is build all these walls. And all we do is when we start to blow up, we immediately show that we struck a nerve. We immediately show. So when you think about it, let's say someone made you mad and you blew up, okay? Here's the funny part is, then I say, okay, you need to go apologize. You then go apologize and you still can't wait to blow up again. So many of us, okay, I'm telling maybe some of you how to not be with your husband or your wife. If somebody made you mad and you blew up out of anger, the first thing you need to do when you walk back into there is say, hey, I'm sorry for being so mad. I'm sorry for getting so angry. I'm sorry for the way that is. That's the pride. That's the pride. But that's a great picture because that's still what we do because that's what we want. We still want to be right. Here's the thing. In that case, if that's how we feel, we're not ready for any kind of resolution. You're not. You're still trying to win. Stop trying to win. When it comes down to your arguments with your husband or your wife, this is not how to argue with your husband or wife. So when it comes down to this, you have to learn how to have this good conflict resolution. We have to have this need for it. If not, we are going to sound like these hotheads. Your kids are going to know you. Oh man. Again, I know I sound like a broken record, but they tell on you. I ask your kid, how does your mom react to that? How does your dad react to that?
I worked at the daycare worker. This 1-year-old one time came to me, Miss Christie. I was like, my daddy smokes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, what is? They tell you everything, but I want you to hear me say this. If I was to ask your mom, or I was to ask your kid about mom, how does mom, when mom gets mad, what does she do? When my dad gets mad, what does he do? And I'm telling on myself because I guarantee you my kids would be like, he gets too loud. Okay? My wife always says that I'm always yelling. And I can be talking like this. And here's the deal. She might be right. I get in trouble for tone a lot. Okay? My tone's in trouble. Okay? Listen, I always tell her, I'm like, I guess I'm broken. I feel like I'm broken. But listen to me. If I love her, I want to change. If I love her, I want to do differently. If I'm always going to be the one who has to be domineering and dominant, listen to me. That is not a godly man. A godly man is not someone who says, you do what I say, when I say it, how I say it. Listen to me, that is psycho. I've watched it. Okay? It sounds more like the world than it sounds like anything the Bible says. I don't think Jesus would say, do it my way, and if you don't, you go to hell. Well, actually, he would. But I want you to think about it. If he was there, he would be kind and gentle. And you're going, well, he knocked over tables. Yeah, because they were destroying the place of God, the house of God. There's things to fight for and things not to fight for. When it comes down for your wife or your husband or your kids or your friends, are they worth fighting for? So look there, the next page. Number 4 is my favorite thing. It's what I'm waiting to get to the whole time. Only got 10 minutes to. Look there, let's see some verses. All right. In Matthew chapter 18, there's an entire thing and instructions on how to deal with someone who is a problem, who has a sin. Now, listen to me. In Matthew chapter 10, it gives you step by step if someone does not. It says this. It says, the first one, it says, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault and between you and him alone. So just go to him alone. Okay. Matthew chapter 18, what you know about conflict resolution, post this, is if they did not take any concern, post this. Like, in other words, they stopped. So let's say I went to Chuck and I said, Chuck, hey, I think you're really sinning here. You need to stop doing this thing. And he said, well, I'm going to do whatever I want, blah, blah, blah. The Bible in Matthew chapter 18 says that me and David are supposed to then go back to him and go do this, okay? That's if there's no relationship and he's completely ignoring me. Does that make sense? That is not the scenario. This scenario is if this person is already a friend, a wife, a kid, or somebody else. If your brother sins, so look at the second verse. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. Brothers, if someone has caught you in a sin, you are spiritual, should restore him gently. Okay? Now, that's again a friend. Look there, the first one. Number 1, go to that person and not about the person. Don't talk about the person. Don't gossip about the person. Obey Matthew 18. Talk directly, privately, kindly. Aim to win your brother, not to win the argument. It's huge. I think the closer the relationship is, the more likely you want to win the argument. When you have kids and you feel like you're the parent You feel like you have to win the argument. Listen to me. It is okay as mom and dad to say, I'm sorry. You do not have to win every argument. There's no scoreboard. If you're a husband or a wife, husband and wife is different. Because a husband and wife is not about a person, it's about us. Us. When we get off the us and we're trying to win arguments, we're now completely not caring about the us part. Because what we're focused on is winning the argument about what's good for me, not what's good for us. What's good for us needs to be the thing that focuses around a relationship with a husband and wife. That was last year, though. We're not doing it. No, number 2, check your own heart first. Remove the log in your own eye before you see the speck in theirs. Own your part, words, tone, and assumptions or withdrawal. And I say that because think about it. What some of us do when we're mad, maybe we're short on our words or we're not very kind with our words. Maybe it's our tone. I'm in trouble there. Assumptions. We assume that they meant this. We assume they meant that. Well, you said, I think it's on here somewhere. It's on the next one. We'll talk about it in the next one. Assume these things. And then we withdraw. We go to our room and we don't talk. I'm going to my room. I'm not talking to you right now. And I will say this. To really love someone, you really have to have patience with someone. Sometimes people do not process or get over conflict as well as some other people do. Some people can immediately say something. They say it and they're done and it's over. Some people, it takes them a while. You need to respect them being okay. It's okay for them to take a while. I didn't write that in here, but I wholeheartedly believe that. My wife wants the us thing to be back together so fast that she immediately forgives and moves on. And I'm just like, I got to think about it a little bit. Not that I'm not going to forgive and forget or like move it on, but I'm going to be like, I'm glad you can. I'm going to be over here. I'm just going to sit over here. I'm going to sit over here by myself just like. And so I will say this. I'm the immature one, okay? I'm immature. I'm married to like the nicest person I know. So it's kind of hard for me to keep up with her sometimes in that. Look, and here's the deal. I think it just depends on the person. It does. It depends on the person. Well, and you think about it. If you love the person, you know the person, and you know that they're not going to process it the same as you. This is a fun one. Check your heart, and I want you to think about this. I hate when people say, that's not what I said, but the problem is that's what they heard. Or that's not what they meant. But listen to me. If that's how they took it, then you hurt them. If your words are a knife and you're slashing around and going, oh, I didn't mean that, but you're just waving it around. Oh, I didn't mean to stab you, didn't mean to cut you, didn't mean to hurt you, and yet you're just waving those words around like they don't have a sharpness to them. You need to be careful with your words. Be careful with what you say, because listen to me, the way they interpret it matters, especially if you love them. And again, with a friend, you should love them. 3, speak the truth in love. Use gentle words. So let's say you go to that person, look like it was at number 1, you go to the person, you sit down with them, you check your heart, make sure you understand that, hey, I got some things that go on. So you walk up to that person, number 2 says we go up to the person, hey, man, I was a fool, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have said that, I'm sorry you said this or this. Then 3, hey, I'm gonna let you know, when you said this, I felt this. That's what number 1 is. Use gentle words, honest words. Avoid exaggerations. I hate exaggerations. I hate the word never. I hate the word always. I hate them. Never use them around me. I cannot, because I'm a science person, and I'm going to say, always? Really? If we were on a different planet, would it always still be the same? No, it wouldn't. It's never going to be an always. Never. It's going to be never going to be a never. It's never going to be, you never do this. Oh my gosh. Yes, they do. Sometimes they do that. It's just right now you're mad, and so you're going to use these, again, hurtful words. When you do this, I felt this. When you said this, this is how it hurt me. And I say this as nice as I can, but there are some times that I am not a very good friend. I have people who I need to work on this with more than anyone else. There are some friends that are even in this church that there are things that has happened between us that I sit there and I really struggle with on a regular basis. That I go, I don't know if I can ever forget that. I don't think I can ever forgive that. But I will say this, time and honesty, again, back to that truth and communications thing, that's kind of why the speak truth and love is really a big deal. It's that you aim to understand, kind of like what Christy said earlier, you aim to understand more than to be understood. Understand why they are the way they are. Understand why they said that. Why did they get so mad? Why did they have an outburst? Why did they have a problem in this situation? Why? Instead of going, well, I hope he understood my point. I think when men, especially for myself, when I say, you know, I have no problem saying exactly what I think and exactly how I feel. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm really saying. I only care about how I feel, and I only care about what I have to say, and I don't really care what you have to say. Take it or leave it. You have to be gentle with your words. Do you really care about what they have to say? Because I hope you hear to say that if you can't do this, you know the alternative is? Loneliness. You're just alone. And you're by yourself. And you're the grumpy old man that lives in the big house. You're like this miser, like Scrooge. And that's what you become. Number 4, seek restoration, not revenge. The goal is to repair relationships, not for payback. Leave vengeance with God and refuse to nurse the bitterness. Number 5, forgive as Christ forgave you. Forgiveness is releasing the right to get even because Jesus bore the debt. Every one of us in this room are sinners. Not one of us are sinless. Therefore, every one of us are capable of really hurting another person. And again, that's what I mean by friendship. If we want friendships, but we don't expect conflict, then we really don't want real friendships. That's why most of us are so scared, and we only want acquaintances because we're so scared to be vulnerable. Because if we are vulnerable, then we could allow someone else to hurt me. You know what I mean? There's a lot of you in this room that I'm really close to who could hurt me right now. And I could hurt you. And you've let me into your life, and I have tried my best to let you into mine. But man, I love what we got. You know why? Because we know each other. That's what it means to have these are your people. These are your friends. These are because they know you. They're a part of you, that they know when you hurt, they hurt. When they are succeeding, you're succeeding. Like, think about it. That's what the whole tribal thing is. That's what the whole church part is that we are the church. It's not one person. It's that we love each other. What did Jesus say? How will they identify my people? They love each other. That's what it really is. You will never forgive anyone more than God has already forgiven you. Look at 5. When you stay and when to step back. Every one of the guys who we read in these books, again, if this is your first week, I've read like 6 books to be able to get all this material for you. This one's hard for me. But there are times where you have to basically, maybe you find out that person's not a friend. Some of you are not good at this step. You have friends right now that you know you need to cut loose, and they are not good friends to you. Not every friendships look the same in every season. Stay and work through conflict. The issue is hurt, misunderstanding, personality differences. Both of you are willing to talk, listen, and repent when needed. Do not, in other words, this is when you get out of this relationship. When you step back and you set boundaries. Therefore, an ongoing, unrepented, and again, this is when you start getting that one-way street person. It's deceit, manipulation, abuse. That abuse can be emotional, spiritual, physical abuse. And I say this because there's some girls who are so mean to some girls. Guys, no girl in this room gets dressed for you, even your wife. Your wife gets dressed and looks pretty for other girls. Girls, y'all tear each other apart, and y'all also can build each other up. And if we're going to be a church and you want to come in here and tear people up, do not come here. We want to build you up. We want to make you feel good. We want to let you know who you are and what you are in God, not in your husband, not in your family, who you are in Jesus. And that needs to be the most important thing. Men, quit being goofballs. I don't know what to say with you. Like, when it comes down to us is that we just need to try to be friends with someone. And some of you here's my biggest pet peeve about this place when I first came here. When Ryan King first invited me here in like 2013, and I got so tired of him because I was so tired, and I was this close of going to another church because I was so tired of coming to the church, shaking the same hands every single week, saying hi to the same men. And once I knew their name, I felt like I was somebody, and I was somebody. But they didn't know me, and I didn't know them, because you know why? I wasn't willing to be vulnerable to them, and I know they weren't willing to be vulnerable to me. So what it came is that I knew all these people. Oh, I go to church with that person, but nobody knows me. Men, that's your problem. Nobody knows you. And if I really was to ask your wife, they would know a little bit. Someone needs to know you. Someone does. That's why you need friendships. That's why you need to love one another. Now, again, you step back when they're being abusive. If we're always called to forgive, wisdom may lead some relationships that are no longer as close. That's what it means by seasons, is that maybe it's just a season that's just ended. 6, Christ is what Miss Mary was talking about, the friend who gets through all the conflict. Jesus is the friend who never envied, never sinned in anger, never acted in pride, faced our rebellion and betrayal, yet moved towards us in a costly love. At the cross, he absorbed the deepest conflict between us and God to reconcile us. Because of him, we can humble ourselves, admit when we are wrong, seek forgiveness, because we're all sinful. Every one of you are sinful. You're not always right. You're not always the best husband. You're not always the best wife. You're not always the best dad. And all of you would say, yeah, I know. But you're also not always the best friend. Do you think there's a relationship that's out there that you could probably call today and go, hey, sorry I wasn't there when your dad was struggling. Sorry I wasn't there when... I do that. I won't lie, I do that a lot. If someone tells me a thing that if someone tells me something that they've experienced that I didn't get to walk through them with, I would go, man, I really wish I was there with you during that. But then again, I got some of these men and women in here that when you're going through something bad or something good, you won't share it with anyone because you don't want to burden them. And I'm telling you this, you're robbing them of friendship. When everything's going bad, that's when a friend is a friend. When everything's hurting, that's when the friends are so important, is they huddle up around you. Okay, now being your pastor, that's my favorite part about this job. And it's not me. It's when you do it. My favorite part about this job is when Kevin Pierce is struggling and that Sunday school class is obsessed with him. Is when Bobby Lee is sending him text messages all the time, calling him. Is when somebody in this room is hurting and I know that people are going and do this. Because here's the thing, if I'm only the person who contacts you, if I'm the only person who loves on you, guess what? I'm just one guy. But when David Norman's, when Lee Norman's, and Lonnie Traxler's hospital room today, dude, that's a big deal. When Miss Jane's being watched by Chuck, and she's weird, but no, I messed with her earlier today. But what's funny is, listen to me, that's how it should be. If you're ever in a hospital bed, and I get to go, and it's just you and me, I'm going to let you know how it's going to go. I'm going to ask you to tell me something that you've never told anybody else. I'm going to ask you to tell me a part of your life that you always wanted to tell me and I never knew about. You want to know why? Because I will always remember that moment when you told me that. Always. And you will always remember the going, hey, I told him the parts of me that nobody knows. I think that's important. I think you do that only with people who actually you feel care. that really do care. It says, we can extend patience and mercy to our friends who fail us, but we can face even painful conversations with hope and not despair. Real friendships does not mean that we never have conflict, but it means conflict is handled in a way that looks like Jesus. So, what are we going to do when we have conflict? Are we going to hide in the corner and get angry and get mad? Are we going to be upset? Or are we going to actually be people who, because here's the deal, listen, so here's what we can expect. In this room, in this thing, you are going to, sooner or later, in the lifetime of yours and mine, we are going to be mad at each other. And you're going to have conflict with me, and I might even have conflict with you. Or you might have conflict with someone in this room. And either we rise above that, and we understand, and we care for one another enough, or we take our toys and go home. Because here's the deal. You know what you will do with me? You just won't come here anymore. That's what you'll do. I beg you to understand, if you have a problem with me, you can always overlook that, because this is what matters more. This out here is what matters more, not me. Okay? Anyway, I love you. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to love you. Let me go. God, I thank you so much for these people in this room. Thank you so much for their hearts and their lives. God, I pray, Lord, that we can look at conflict not as a scary thing, but a thing that you maybe have designed so that we can be more like you, so we can be closer together, so that we can be more united even when everything hurts. God, I pray, Lord, that we are against envy and pride and selfishness. I got to pray, Lord, that we're that way with our husbands and our wives, with our kids, that we're not fits of anger or even the silent treatment, but instead we check our own hearts and we understand that we're all broken. And God, that we need to understand more than we're being understood. Understand why they said that. Understand why they wanted to hurt us. Understand why they had anger. God, that we would check our tone. And God, that we would understand that we are the bride of Christ. And we are to live not for ourselves, for each other. And God, if we have a real relationship with you, then this is the way we love each other. That's the fruit in which we show. God, I pray, Lord, that we would have real fruit, not fake fruit. But God, real fruit that has nourishment, and not the fake fruit that's made of plastic. God, I pray, Lord, that you would change us, change me. Lord, we love you and we praise you. In your name we pray, amen. I love you. Have a great week.